Yes. Hello, everybody who's watching via technology and those who are here live. It's fantastic to have you here. So this is a class we've never offered before, but I want to tell you that as I look over 33 years of practice, there's definitely a trend that I see when people travel. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. It could be summer, fall, holidays, that people go into it all excited, and you should be, okay? And it could even be business travel. I think business travel is still fun too. But they come back and many times they actually are sick. They actually have picked up an illness, or they come back and kind of crash. And that's when they get sick. And so I thought, I really should do a class on this. In fact, it was suggested by a patient. So I'm sorry, I forget who actually it was that suggested that this past year, but I owe it to you for getting this class put together. And we look forward to doing this on a rotating basis as we care for our patients and give them the best information we can. As I've said, you probably will get somewhere between $250,000 to $1 million worth of information from these talks, just because of the things that you'll save yourself from. And you don't have to go to grad school to get it, which is kind of nice. We bring it down to a level that most people can take it and apply it. So how to travel and thrive and not get sick is the focus of this class. And we're going to make sure we share with you the things that we think will give you the best chance to actually stay strong throughout your travels when you come home, so you can actually come back and tell us all about how great your trip was, show us pictures, and not have to be wiping your nose. So we're going to ask for a vote, and so you can vote with your hand at home or here in the office. This is good. I want to assume these things. First of all, is it safe to say that you would like to be as healthy as possible naturally? Is that fair? Okay, most people say that. And most people, what are the options? I want to be sick, or I want to be trying to boost myself up with medication, surgery. Number two, do you want travel to contribute to your health? Would that be a nice thing? If you could actually be healthier, or at least as healthy from travel, that'd be a nice thing, right? How about this? Did you know that vacations can actually make you healthier? Did you know that? Okay, we're going to cover some stuff that they've discovered in people who are actually comparing vacation groups versus non-vacation groups. It's pretty amazing. Do you know that healthy travel doesn't just happen? Who knows that? You're going to have to plan that. That makes sense, doesn't it? And then lastly, do you want some action steps that can make your healthy travel? Would you like that? If I gave you, we don't want to sit here and just spew information. I want to give you actionable steps that we go through. And are you willing to take the action steps? Now, that means you're going to have to change. Now, some people might keep their hands down. You might even be sitting on your hands at this point, and I understand that. But I want to make this as painless as possible and show you that actually these changes we're going to actually make are not huge. And usually we ask people to simply take away one thing, master that one, and then go on to the other ones you may want to do as well too. Now, in this class, I'm going to use the words travel and vacation interchangeably. They're not synonyms, I know that. You may travel for business. You may even travel for a funeral, okay? But I'm going to use the terms vacation and travel interchangeably because that constitutes most of what we do, and the same rules would apply. So when I say the word vacation, what comes to mind? Relaxation. Yeah, getting away from the routine, right? Getting away from the daily grind, getting a chance to maybe have it where our alarm clocks and a really strong, tight schedule don't dictate every waking moment of our day. And sometimes it's just to see something in a place that's new, right? Go someplace you've never been before. Just talked to somebody recently who's going to go to Hawaii. I think it's their first time actually. I think it's pretty neat. We actually have a state that's that far away. Some people think of this like prepare for liftoff, and that'd be a great time, right? Here's the family showing up at the airport. They've got their luggage, they're ready to go to have a good time. And then of course there's other people who would say, when will this end? And there's the family vacation from the movie, right? Not exactly having they're having memorable times, but not always the most positive time. And it's one of my favorite movies. I guess you could say that we've had both experiences, and the choice is kind of ours too. So when you hear the word business travel, what comes to mind? Some people think of things like this. It's going to be great, okay? And a lot of times some really wonderful things have happened. We actually have a patient of ours who's been to Germany 3 times this year to help with manufacturing over there. And it's turned into a very wonderful working relationship. And also he's picked up some German as well and got to go to Oktoberfest, which is pretty neat. And then some people think about what a week I'm having, right? Maybe they missed some flights. Maybe they didn't get everything accomplished, or maybe it didn't go as planned, right? So we want to make sure that you plan to actually take care of your health so that in either of these scenarios you come back as good as you possibly can be. Vacations can be a health booster. If you don't have vacations, your health will suffer. I actually came across an article, which will appear at the end of this talk. This psychologist, professor of psychology, did a study where they took a look, and what they showed is that vacation and leisure activities and hobbies, so even they would call that like a mini vacation. If you said, I'm going to take part of my weekend this weekend to go work in the garden because I love doing that, that's considered to be almost like a mini vacation. These things actually lower your heart rate, which is considered to be a good thing. You're actually going into rest and digest mode. your blood pressure goes down and you reduce stress hormones. Stress hormones can actually make you sick. They're very helpful if you're being threatened, like if you're being chased by a tiger, but it makes no sense to have those in most of the situations we're in. Even planning and anticipating these actually beforehand produces the same thing. When people start thinking about a vacation, they can measure physiological changes that are happening in their body. And there's one over here, Dr. Jessica DeBloom. She actually is an organizational psychologist, and she has shown that what her focus in her research is actually is vacation and leisure time on people's well-being and work performance, and also how workers are being affected by the vanishing boundaries between work and non-work day. What she basically means is she's studying the effects of taking your computer with you on vacation and checking your emails, which you really shouldn't be doing. If it's truly a vacation, you need to make sure you leave that stuff behind. But what they've shown is that not taking annual vacations is significantly associated with higher risk for morbidity, meaning getting sick, and even mortality due to heart attacks. You're more likely to have a cardiovascular event if you do not take vacations. I think that's pretty important, right? We want to keep our hearts healthy because they feed our body with everything we need to live. So, and yet vacations can cause people stress. This actually was a survey done online. It was a poll of over 1,000 travelers, and they wanted to find out what kind of things make travel stressful for you. And here's what they found out from this set of surveys. So 92% of Americans will say that there's some part of travel they find nerve-wracking. People are usually the most nervous when returning from a vacation. 25% or 1 in 4 of us is dreading the pile of work they'll come back to an overflowing inbox of email. Believe it or not, women are 8% more likely than men to find travel moderately, quite stressful, or very stressful. 72% versus 64% men, which I think often has to do with the fact that many times mom or the wife is actually preparing the travel plans, right? So who can blame them for being stressed? Buses, 29% of the most anxiety-producing mode of transportation. Why would that be? Well, sometimes they're a little unpredictable. You have to haul your stuff into the thing, right? And you're sitting by complete strangers. Creating an itinerary, 2/3 of people found that the most daunting pre-travel activity, trying to figure out what we're going to do once we arrive there. Because sometimes the things you're going to do are time-based. We have to be here at 2 o'clock and here at 5 o'clock and so forth. The most frightening part of staying in a destination is dealing with hotel reservation problems. Almost 70% of people. The wrong size room, right? Maybe they put them on the wrong floor. Maybe they're sold out for the day. Who knows? All things can happen. And lastly, plane pre-boarding, over 1/4 of people, is the worst air travel stressor. Just the idea of getting to the airport on time, getting in line, getting to your seat, getting your stuff in the overhead bin, and getting seated in time for takeoff. Over 1 in 4 people finds that stressful, and I sometimes can say I do too. Well, what things can cause stress, sickness, and subluxation? The chiropractors of old, I really love how they did this. They said there's 3 sources of things that would make you get sick. The thoughts, so there's the mental stress of travel, there's the traumas, physical stress, and then toxins, the chemical stress. It's your right and responsibility to make sure that you reduce the amount and the effects of this stress. And so what happens is when those things are present, your body goes into fight or flight mode. It's called the autonomic response. Once again, it's very helpful if your life is actually being threatened, but it's not helpful if you're only imagining something being threatful and it's not. And so that creates all sorts of tension within the body, which eventually pulls asymmetrically on the body, and then it can create subluxations and or certain postures that go with it. And that becomes a vicious cycle. In other words, subluxations, once present, cause stress to the nerves, which make these things actually have a heightened response too. So it becomes this feedback loop that we have to break, and that's what the adjustment does. And rebuilding people's posture enables the body to actually communicate better. So there's a wellness continuum, and I want you guys to get this point across because this is important. We're not talking about being simply sick or healthy, but there actually is a range that we function on. So on this end, we actually would have the very best form of health, optimal health. A person who's living congruent with their genetic code. They're moving, they're eating good foods, they're resting, they're managing their stress well. They're getting adjusted, keeping the nervous system healthy. Well, over time, if a person gets away from those habits, they start to get down here where they say, I'm still feeling pretty good. There's no symptoms, but their nutrition starts to become somewhat irregular, their exercise is sporadic, and health is not really a high priority. Staying healthy or staying pain-free might be a thing there. But if you let your health go to that degree, eventually you start to see those symptoms show up, and people can sometimes start to turn to things to numb themselves. Drugs to block pain things and so forth, and they're starting to lose normal function. They're functioning well below normal. This is where the person says, I'm slowing down a bit, or I seem to get these indigestions when I eat certain things, whatever it may be. Well, down here, now we have multiple comorbidities, medications being taken, a poor quality of life, and the maximum potential life becomes very limited, and of course this can lead to even premature death. So what I want to tell you is that on that continuum, you're always somewhere, and you're always pointing and moving some direction based on the choices that you're making. So you could be down here and say, I got a wake-up call, I had some sort of really big health scare, but now I'm turning things around and they're starting to march towards this right here. Somebody else could be here like at a 9 and just say, you know what, I'm kind of tired of doing all those things. I'm going to take a break for a while. They take a break for 3 months and they find themselves suddenly at number 5, like, wow, how did I get in this boat? So you're always at some place and you're always moving some direction. So before, during, and after vacation, you're going to have some choices to make about planning, choosing, and responding well to reduce your mental stress, preparing for the physical aspects of what you're going to be traveling with, the participation during and post-recovery. Some vacations can be pretty aggressive. People do a lot of crazy things sometimes. And then lastly, chemical nutrition, fueling for energy, building for recovery, and supplying for immunity. All important things. And of course, we have a choice and forks in the road all the way as we go through these things. That guy has a pretty good choice, pretty to make. If he veers to the right, he's going to be doing well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a checklist for this trip and all future trips. I'm actually giving one out tonight for those who are not here. If you want to get a copy of this, you can get this. This is actually simply the vacation packing list, but you want to make one for yourself for all sorts of things like stopping the mail, right? Setting the thermostat correctly, right? Turning off the water heater if you do that sort of thing. All those things you can do. You'll make a checklist that works for you, and you want to put it to paper, because if you leave it to memory, here's a great thing I heard just this past week is that if I asked you what's 2 plus 2, you don't have to put that one to paper, do you? But if I said, what's 4,000 minus 1,715? Now all of a sudden you're thinking to yourself, now wait a minute, that's, some people can do that in their head, but most people need to get a piece of paper out. The things that are important or complex, we need to put to paper. We don't do it in our head. And you want to make sure you keep that list somewhere where you can use it again and again and again, and modify it as you find that maybe you've left something off or you no longer have the need to do a certain thing. But make it into a checklist to reduce stress. So mental stress and vacation, we do not want this. This is actually how many people's vacation goes. They're getting ready. The idea that there's this big push to get everything done. They respond to all the emails, get their desk cleaned off, and now they take off and they climb on the plane. It's like, here we go. Now, the first thing they realize is, hey, I'm not working, and they think they have their laptop right there. I could maybe go and check my email, okay? I don't recommend you do that. So here it comes down like this, and so there's a little stress there. The person checks their email. Now we have things to worry about, to do when we get back, okay? Now we have a check, realize that there's more to life than work. Okay, here we're back down in low stress mode. Sometimes the existential crisis, which cracks me up. Briefly consider never going back from vacation. It's been so good at vacation, I don't want to go back. And now we come back and boom, we have a loaded inbox of emails. Your employer says, I need to have this done by Friday at 5. And so all this work here. And so that would not be, it looks like a stock market report, and it's very erratic, and that would be tough on us, okay? So mental stress reducers and health builders. So preparation is key. I'm going to give these lists to you. If you want to get out your phone and take a screenshot of this, you sure can. Or you can try to write these down, but we'll give them to you in a written format if you want them. We'll prep these out for you. Preparation is key. Pray about concerns versus worrying about them. As the saying goes, praying and worrying both work, because most of what we worry for doesn't happen. What we pray for actually does. What's the goal of this trip? Okay, if your purpose is to relax, do everything you can to not bring things with you that will make it seem like work, for sure. Imagine ahead of time everything going smoothly, right? This is one of those things where what we tend to think about tends to come about. People who actually think about things going well will make decisions and actions that tend to lead to that happening. Give yourself enough time to plan. The last minute is frantic. We all remember the Home Alone thing when everybody's trying to get ready for this big trip they're going to take to France, and everybody's running around and a child gets left behind in the house, which makes for a great story, but not in real life, okay? Haven't used a checklist? You hope the pilot does. No pilot, I will say this, no passenger on a plane wants to have a pilot who says, hey, I just kind of climbed on board, it kind of felt like the gas was good. No, you're going to make sure there's full tanks. You're going to make sure that all the mechanical things are working well. We have full stock of whatever we need to do. All the things that need to go for a pre-flight check, that's a checklist. Even though the pilot's done it for 35 years, he still will go through a pre-flight checklist. And use people and sites that you trust, guys. I've had sometimes people just kind of get a whim, like they happen to see one little thing about some great travel you can make, and it turns out it was not such a great one after all, because it was from a less reputable source. Here's some other ones too. Shop for value, not just price. We have found that a lot of times that we have been happy to pay a little bit more for something when it was actually a phenomenal experience, where they took care of everything for us. Ask for input from others what they want to do, right? This is going to be a group thing. If you're taking a family on a vacation, everybody should have some input about what we're going to do, right? And plan downtime in your trip so you come back refreshed. If you schedule every single hour and minute with things to do and you push, and come home and collapse into bed, you'll probably be that way when you collapse into bed when you get home, and now Monday morning comes around and you'll feel refreshed at all. So for our family, on some of our trips, we've said we're going to do 1 or maybe 2 things per day, unless it's going to be some type of thing where there's an admission to it, like a park where you're going to go all day. And then we come home and just have some downtime, for sure. assume that no one's out to ruin your day and don't give them that power if they are, right? Sometimes you get the idea that everybody's all stressed out because they're standing in lines in 100-degree weather to go on the next ride, and then people's tempers get a little bit short, right? We just all need to cool down and pipe down and assume that, hey, we're all in this together. Forgive everyone, keep short accounts, both in traffic and in crowds, right? If you get cut off in traffic because you're driving a different style than, say, where that local is, people honk their horns at you, downplay it, it's all good. And lastly, make sure you get adjusted before and after your vacation. You will function so much better when your nervous system is actually free of civilizations. Okay, so a good trip should actually have both. It should have chills, right? Chilling on the beach, and it should also have some thrills too. These poor guys here going down the roller coaster or up the roller coaster. A good vacation to me actually has a bit of both. There's some highs in terms of excitement and adrenaline, and some not lows, but some downtime to relax like that. So physical stress in vacation, we don't want this. We don't have a person who's actually tired, feeling sick, unable to focus and driving. That's maybe a bad thing. And so physically, if we're not taking care of ourselves, vacation can be very, very rough. What are some things we can do actually to help reduce stress and build health in our physically? So again, preparation is going to be the key. You'll hear me say this all the time. Preparation always beats randomness, these things, because you can know it's more predictable. Travel's hard enough as it is. Get adjusted before and after. 2, anything your trip will require if you start it now. So the example I'll give here is walking. I know a person who actually has her mom and she has 3 sisters, so those are 3 aunts. They went to a country in Europe and they were going to tour some castles and cathedrals. Well, most of those places have no elevators and no escalators. So if you're going to go up and see the high part of it, you're going to have to climb a lot of flights of stairs. Her mom is the only one that did not train for that. And sadly, she could not make it up those stairs, and she had to stay down in a cafe on the street while the other 3 sisters went to the top and got the absolutely beautiful view of these places. Get excellent, adequate rest. Sleep well and sleep long. Seek lodging with great beds. Okay, this is for sure. Like if you actually choose some hotels, there are hotel chains that are known for having some of the best beds in the world. And they know that if you're staying with them, probably at least half the time you're going to be there, you'll be asleep. We don't want to put a cheap mattress in there that you'll be careful on. Take your personal pillow with. And then, Brenda, could you bring out the cushions in the back there that I set back there for you to show people? Your personal pillow may actually need to be something you travel with. And we have some things here in the office we call back vitalizer, posture medic, neck pillows, and a Nada chair. I'm going to show those to you real quick. If you could bring those out to us, Brenda. Brenda? I'll have to go in there together. Pardon me, wrong setting here. Okay, so for travel, we actually have something here called a back vitalizer. This is actually it's replaced virtually everything that I had in my office before for support with travel. This can be inflated to the height and level that you need. It can also be not only put behind you, but actually underneath you. And so this is fantastic for preserving spinal architecture. This is something called a posture medic, which actually is a thing you can wear around the back to keep your shoulders back and support. It's phenomenal. It also has exercises in there too. This is something called a Nada chair that actually zips open and goes around both knees to support your low back. It's like a sling, and it goes into something this small that fits easily in your suitcase. So if you're going to a place where you're going to be watching a lot of baseball and the bleachers are there with no seat backs on them, that'd be great. And lastly, this is actually probably, I think, the best neck pillow I've found. If you see a lot of the ones that they have in the airports that actually have the sort of horseshoe shape to them, well, those actually are open in the front. And if you sleep and fall asleep with your head forward, it's going to fall right through there. This one, on the other hand, actually has the ability to go in front like this. It actually snaps behind you like this. If I can get it. Sorry. Well, anyway, that's how it fastens in like this. And so when you sleep, it actually, your head can rest on like this, and your head's not going to go into flexion. And I actually love this one. This is what I've been taking on my flights, and it really does work well. Phenomenal. Okay. Other things that we keep around to be physically healthy. Take your workout clothes with you. It's not likely you're going to exercise if you take our dress clothes. But if you take your exercise clothes, you'll probably do it. Check if the hotel actually has some things, or some gym chains actually have what they call like the away program, where you can actually go to the YMCA or to go to some other type of gym that's in there, maybe Planet Fitness. And if you're visiting from out of town, it's a small fee to go there. Check seating arrangements and size for the seats in the plane. Utilize things that make the ergonomics of travel easier. So those things that I just mentioned right there. And then you heed the baggage weight limits, both airline and personal. If you can't carry more than, say, 30 pounds comfortably, don't put more than 30 pounds in your carry-on because you're gonna have a hard time getting that in a bin there. And know that all airlines actually limit the amount of pounds you can put in a bag too. It's very stressful to get there and find out that you're 2 pounds over and decide what am I gonna throw away from my bag or transfer it to another bag to fall into the weight limit. Know if your lodging actually has laundry, because if you actually have laundry where you're going, you can take less clothes. You might be able to take half as much, right? Which is kind of nice. And lastly, less is more, minimalism. Just try to go with little stuff, leave some room for some souvenirs to come back with. So travel is seldom easy, make it easier. Here's one of the coolest ones I've seen to make it easier for you physically. One of our patients found this, which is actually a carabiner. That actually is a large version of what you might go mountain climbing with. What is it used for? It's used to attach your suitcase to a stroller as you go through the airport. That way you're not going pushing this way and pulling this way. It actually attaches that way. Isn't that cool? I think that's great. That's what a back saver for a mom. And you can roll smoothly right through the airport and the terminal just like that. Pretty amazing. So chemical stress from vacation. We don't want this. We don't want to be laying around loading up on things that we're stuffing ourselves that are pro-inflammatory and make us feel like, you know, we're in a coma. And we certainly do not want to have a virus or infection of some kind that keeps us in bed when we're supposed to be out enjoying ourselves on vacation. So a truly amazing statistic. This is actually one I came across in my research for this paper. Talk about chemical stress. Sometimes it's not just the food we eat, but it's how much we eat, okay? So my question is, do you think calories count on international waters? If you leave, okay, our coastal waters and get on the open ocean, say on a cruise ship, do those calories count? Well, look at this. Weight gain on a cruise is a common concern for many travelers. However, the reality might surprise you. On the average, a cruise passenger gains between 1 and 2 pounds per day on the trip. Okay, can you imagine that? 1 or 2 pounds per day because the food is always available, 24/7, abundance of food, but also another factor is the misconception that vacation calories don't count. There are actually people that think that. Isn't that amazing? So here's the problem we face then, of course. This person says about their shirt, strange thing, this shirt fit when we left home, right? They left, now they're on the open seas, they're piling their plates full of stuff, and all of a sudden the clothes are fitting kind of tight, and they're feeling pretty miserable too, all right? So chemical stress reducers, how can we reduce our chemical stress on trips? Again, preparation is going to be the key. Get adjusted before and after you leave. There's actually been shown that you change your body's chemistry when you get adjusted. It actually reduces cortisol, it reduces the pro-inflammatory markers in your body. Eat as clean and healthy as possible before you leave. That way, if it turns out on vacation you actually have to have some pro-inflammatory meals because you have to go through the drive-through, well, okay, it's going to be less harmful, not at least less building upon what you've had. Plan ahead for the needs, likes, and allergies that you have with food. So if you know that you can't have gluten or you can't have dairy, make sure the places that you're going actually have menus that actually feature things without those things in there. Hydrate well before the airplane ride or before going up in elevation because you get dehydrated and boy, your mucous membranes get dry. That's one of the fastest ways to have a virus or bacteria laid on your mucous membranes and then make you sick. Take healthy snacks with you rather than relying on what's in the airports. If you look at what they usually pass around on the airplane, they're usually high in carbs, high in refined grains. They're sugary and salty, and they have lots of seed oil filled items there too. So just make sure you don't eat those things. On the other hand, take your supplements with you. We have a whole armamentarium of things here that you need for cellular wellness that we sell. If you can't take them all, at least take the most important ones: a multivitamin, omega-3s, vitamin C, D, and zinc in your Juice Plus. Take a pre and probiotic for gut health to counter novel germs, meaning new things you've never been exposed to. Sometimes you travel to parts of the world, there's things there that we don't have here. And so if your gut is actually leaky and actually not healthy, you can get those things. On the other hand, if you take things that feed the stuff, usually basically things that are fermented and things like that, they're phenomenal. And then you want to make sure that they have fermentation and then fiber to feed on. Take activated charcoal with you for GI distress. If you would ever have something where you get the runs, as it say Montezuma's Revenge, right? The big D, diarrhea. Activated charcoal actually helps to turn that off. Take some good natural type of hand sanitizer like doTERRA so you're not exposing yourself to things you wouldn't want to have in your body. Avoid pro-inflammatory foods, these ones right here. And lastly, take along some magnesium for leg cramps on the plane or when you're sleeping as well too. All right, if vacation after all, so I would say when you're on vacation, you can follow the 80-20 rule. As long as you're eating this way about 80% of the time, right? The things that are nice and lean and well-sourced and actually have all the good quality basic nutrients there, none of them cooked out or refined out, you can actually have some of this now and then too, 20% of the time, okay? Desserts are great, I like them, but if those ratios switch where this is 80% and that's 20, we're in trouble, okay? So, we reach the moment of truth. Here's what I ask you is this. You've learned some stuff that you can do, right? Now the question becomes this. Nothing changes if nothing changes. You have 3 questions to answer. First of all, would you like to change from where you've traveled in the past? Raise your hand if you'd like to. Okay? Who wants to change? That's the challenging one, right? Okay, I want change. Am I willing to make the change? That's good. Okay? And then lastly, who wants to lead the change? That means you're going to be like an ambassador for this. That's good. If your hand's up there, you know what? I think the people actually who master this to some degree should share it with other people. That's why I make the world better, one person at a time. Okay? So your call to action is going to be this. We actually about 6 or 7 to 8 things in here. First of all, if you want to change your vacation, travel, and your health, fantastic. Okay? Number 2, what am I willing to change my family's habits? It's going to involve down changing how you do things, not just momentarily, but from this point going forward. It's like a revolutionary, you're making a good, solid turn, okay? Number 3, am I willing to lead that charge so that others can follow my example? There's a great saying, which is that kids more often catch what they observe you do more so than what you tell them. Good habits are more caught than they are taught. And so if you can show them, here's how we travel, kids, and here's why we do it, okay, and you show them how, that's a great thing. Number 4, sadly, most people will wait until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change before they change. That's a tough one, right? Because the person who just simply will not exercise until they find out they actually have high blood pressure. Well, that's not good to have that, or some type of illness. So let's do this. How about if we could actually change because the pleasure of change wooed you out of your rut? That'd be even better, wouldn't it? If we actually say, I'm going to change because what it offers me is a really good quality experience when I have my health intact. It's a really good thing, okay? I will tell you that if you take your want for change and multiply it by your willingness to change on a scale from 0 to 10, you're going to get the percentage of chance for success. So let's say that my wanting for change is a 9, but my willingness to change is a 2. 9 times 2 equals 18. I probably have an 18% chance for success. On the other hand, if my desire for change is a 9, and my willingness to change is like a 9, I have an 8, just reverse, 81%, right? That's really good. So there has to be a knowledge of what I want, but there has to be a willingness to change. One is a head, one is a heart issue. And then when you find out what you need to do, be accountable to somebody, tell somebody I'm going to do this and let them ask you how's it going. Practice it well, tweak your methods and teach it to other people. And then lastly, think about who do I need to share this with, right? So you know that chiropractic and the chiropractic lifestyle will actually give you the best possible life experience, including when you travel. My question is, who do you needs to know this? And that's what we're doing next week is we have the Gift of Health coming up. We actually now have only 4 appointments left where people can come in and actually experience chiropractic for the first time by coming in and actually having their initial screening and exams and films on us in exchange for a small donation to City Impact's Gifts of Love program. This could be the missing thing for most people. There could be people who actually have terrible travel habits and they need to change everything, but I can tell you everybody needs to have proper nerve supply. You cannot do any of these things without your nervous system working well, your brain being connected to your body at 100% and making sure that those things work. So with that being said, this is not the end, it's the beginning. I love this cartoon. This person here is looking at the belly goose on the carousel and she's saying, well, they do say you should tie something to your bag to make it more identifiable. And she's tied her husband to the bag. Well, I'm not sure who's worse off here. She's going to have to lift that thing, or he's been tired and flying in the galley below in the plane there too, the luggage compartment. But we don't want to have vacation feel like this. It should be much better. And if you apply anything we've shared tonight, I'd love to hear your success stories and hear how you do. And that's all we have for tonight.